Siskel and Ebert review Arnold Schwarzenegger as a reprogrammed cyborg in Terminator 2. A young boy believes a vampire has invaded his community in The Reflecting Skin. And Detective Leslie Nielsen is back on the beat in The Naked Gun 2.5. It's all coming up next on Siskel and Ebert.
Arnold Schwarzenegger returns from the future in order to save it in Terminator 2 Judgment Day. It's one of the new summer movies we'll be reviewing this week on Siskel and Ebert. Also on this program, a special segment asking why Julia Roberts seems to be making parts of the same movie over and over again. I'm Roger Ebert of the Chicago Sun-Times.
And I'm Gene Siskel of the Chicago Tribune, and our first film is Terminator 2, and thanks to some truly spectacular and mystifying special effects, as well as some surprisingly solid acting, this is one terrific action picture. I enjoyed it a lot more than the original, and once again, Arnold Schwarzenegger plays a man-like machine sent back from the future to protect a little boy who, if he's allowed to grow up, can save the world from complete and total destruction. The only problem, there's another seemingly more powerful machine also sent back from the future that's out to kill the kid. Also interested in saving the kid is his mother, Sarah, well played by Linda Hamilton, confined to a mental hospital because of her accurate foreknowledge that a nuclear holocaust threatens the world in 1997.
Anybody not wearing 2 million sunblock is going to have a real bad day. Get it? God, you think you're safe and alive? You're already dead. Everybody. Him, you're dead already.
The little boy, played with convincing energy by Eddie Furlong, has a fresh father-son relationship with Schwarzenegger because sometime the kid plays the father.
You just can't go around killing people.
Why?
What do you mean, why? Because you can't.
Why?
The best part of Terminator 2 is the action scenes. Here, Schwarzenegger comes to the rescue of the boy and his mother, who has just escaped from her hospital cell. She doesn't realize yet that Schwarzenegger is a good Terminator.
Kill us all!
Naturally, the conclusion of the film is a battle between the two machines, and the evil Terminator is really one of the great movie villains in a long time. As a human, he looks like a mean waiter who has been to the health club a lot. That's Robert Patrick as the bad Terminator, and under that skin, he is a mass of liquid metal that can change shape and seemingly can't be destroyed. You really have to see this picture to appreciate the special effects involving this guy. When a bullet is shot into him, there's a hole that closes up quickly, slice him apart, closes back up too, blast him into droplets, he comes together like mercury from a broken thermometer. Credit Dennis Muren from Industrial Light and Magic and the Academy Award-winning Stan Winston for the special effects and makeup. They deserve a special Oscar for this picture. Also credit the 4 principal actors. This film has been very well cast. James Cameron, writer-director, played a role in that, I'm sure. They spent a lot of money on this picture. They're going to get it back.
It is a terrific movie. Yeah. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed the way Schwarzenegger is somehow, he has this uncanny ability to find just the right note somewhere between seriousness and humor. There are some laughs in this movie, and there are always laughs with Arnold and not against the character, and they help to lighten a little bit the load of the special effects and of the violence and of the action. And also, one nice touch here, this Terminator has been ordered by the little boy to try not to kill people, which is a little bit of a difference for these special effects pictures.
Well, the other thing is, I want to go into some of the other casting, because Schwarzenegger does what he always does, but, you know, they could have cast a big Dolph Lundgren type as the bad guy here, and they picked this Robert Patrick, and he doesn't have a lot of charisma, but they knew that you cast this sort of slight guy, and he's somehow more lethal because he isn't obviously macho. Linda Hamilton is very good. She's got a neck as big as and strong as Schwarzenegger's. She's tough. She isn't made into a sex object, but she's a real presence there, powerful. It's terrific.
Okay, our next movie is a strange, odd, haunting film about an American childhood called The Reflecting Skin. It takes place in Idaho in the 1950s, where a young boy named Seth lives with his alcoholic father and angry mother in a shack behind a ramshackle gas station. And on a neighboring farm, a young widow's unusual behavior has Seth convinced that she's a vampire. After a neighbor boy is murdered, Seth's father, who is under suspicion, burns himself to death. The sheriff speculates on the crime.
Your pa, he ever, touch you?
Yeah.
Where'd he touch you, boy?
In the kitchen.
No, I don't mean that. Did he ever touch you in, places?
Places outside the kitchen?
No.
Maybe the murder was by a group of strangers who drive around in a big black car and give the neighbor widow a lift.
It's a beautiful day, isn't it, Seth?
Yeah.
And it's not a good idea to get in that car. The Reflecting Skin is a very strange movie, horrible and funny in about equal measure. And it reminded me of Blue Velvet and the other works of David Lynch, but I think it's better than Lynch's work because the tone is more carefully controlled and the mood isn't broken by attempts at easy humor. The movie was written and directed by Philip Ridley, an Englishman who wrote last year's great movie, The Craze, and it was shot in a visual style that owes a lot to the paintings of Andrew Wyeth. It's not really about America at all. It's about nightmares, and I'm not easily going to forget it.
Well, I dismiss it pretty much. Even though I love the landscape of the picture, I love the big sky country, I guess Idaho right near Montana, but I mean, it's, to me, the nightmares, I couldn't relate to any of them particularly. I didn't have these kinds of nightmares myself, and I thought it was just overloaded, so that every facet of the world where this kid goes, everything is awful, and including a father who self-immolates. I mean, I just thought it was unending.
Well, but you're the defender of some of David Lynch's work, and it seems to me that if there's a whole genre here that's being created by certain directors of hyper-realism, where they take what looks like a slice of life and then bizarre and weird things happen, and underneath the surface of the normal world are hateful things.
Okay.
This, I think, is a better example.
Let me give an example. I don't think that this is the slice of life under. I think that this whole life up front is, there isn't a happy life here. The only thing that's unmolested is the grass out there.
But it's not a movie. It's not a movie about a happy life. It's a movie about these people.
No, I'm saying it is an attempt to recreate all of a child's fears, and there's no pleasure in the world whatsoever.
Well, that's correct, but I liked it, even so.
Okay.
Coming up later in the show, a commentary on Julia Roberts' career and how she's being typecast. Next, The Naked Gun 2.5, The Smell of Fear.
Do you gamble, Lieutenant?
Every time I order out.
Say your prayer. Nice work, Frank.
What? That's Leslie Nielsen back as the bumbling Lieutenant Frank Drebin in the comedy sequel, The Naked Gun 2.5, The Smell of Fear. And there are a lot of laughs in this picture as he fights against an industrial polluter played by Robert Goulet, has been coming on to Nielsen's girlfriend, Priscilla Presley.
That's my little hellcat. Well, that's great. I've been dating, too. Nice girl, an author. She wrote the book on male sexual dysfunction. You've probably read it. I beg your pardon.
Frank, please.
Oh, it's all right. I'm sure that we can handle this situation maturely, just like the responsible adults that we are. Isn't that right, Mr. Poopy Pants?
When the two of them are alone together, the dialogue gets very silly.
Oh, Frank, we're no good together. All you ever lived for was your police work.
And you were always busy trying to save the end zone layer.
Ozone layer.
The sequel is not as funny as the original Naked Gun, but there are plenty of moments that still bring a smile.
I don't recall seeing your name on the guest list.
Nothing to be embarrassed about. I sometimes go by my maiden name. A nice party, Hasbro. See a lot of familiar facelifts.
I think I figured out what I like about these movies as much as the laughs, and that is the sense of anticipation of laughs. It's fun to sit in your seat and be at attention because you don't want to miss anything. Naked Gun 2.5 was created by the team of David and Jerry Zucker and partner Jim Abrahams. And when you watch one of their movies, like Airplane or Top Secret, you have to watch closely to catch all the jokes. And far too few films these days are well written enough to demand attention. I really like this picture.
I did too. I agree with you. It's not as good as Airplane. It's not as good as Top Secret.
Right.
But it's not bad either. And it is so shamelessly stupid that at times I found myself laughing twice. First at the joke, and then secondly at myself.
Right.
You know, the guy says, do you believe in taking chances? He says, every time I order out. I laughed at that, and then I thought, that's really dumb. And the whole movie is at that same... It's so dumb, it's funny.
But you know that they have worked over these things.
They
They've tried out jokes. You know, they probably killed jokes and all that. And again, I appreciate their effort. It is an effort. When we come back, Europa Europa, based on a true story about a Jewish man who survived World War II by pretending to be a Nazi.
Our next movie is named Europa Europa, and it's based on the true story of Solomon Perel, whose German-Jewish family fled to Poland as World War II approached. When the Nazis invaded Poland, he was separated from his family and through an incredible chain of circumstances was mistaken for a German orphan and wound up in the German army. As the movie opens, Nazis have invaded Solomon's father's store and killed his sister while he escapes death by hiding in a barrel in the backyard.
Da bist du ja.
Then Solomon falls into Nazi hands, but keeps his identity secret, and he becomes an interpreter for a German unit. For his services, he is sent to a Hitler youth school, where he's able to survive by thinking fast and answering difficult questions.
Kennst du das nicht? Habt ihr das nicht an der Ostfront gesungen? Nein, das lernst du noch.
He even falls in love with a German girl, but because he's circumcised, he dares not have sex with her for fear she will discover his secret.
Ich muss jetzt gehen.
Ich bringe nach Hause, ja?
Wenn du willst.
And I guess the conflict there is between his secret and his normal teenage lust, although the actor there is not really very good in that scene or, for example, in this movie. Europa Europa is based, as I said, on a true story, but the truth about one man does not always add up to the truth about many men, and it is hard to see what statement this film wants to make. Its hero was Jewish, yet he survived by pretending to be a Nazi. Well, can we blame him? Not many of us would choose death if we had to make that choice. But his survival does not negate the fact of the Holocaust, and being lucky enough to survive doesn't make him a hero. This film reminded me of Triumph of the Spirit, that movie of 2 years ago, about a Jewish man who was a boxer in a concentration camp and was allowed by the Nazis to live as long as he kept winning his fights. Such stories of lucky survival are amazing, but aren't they really meaningless exceptions to the big picture?
Well, I don't think this guy's story is meaningless, because through him we are taken through this period, and so the events that he witnesses, for example, how many portrayals of a Hitler Youth School have you seen in these films? I haven't seen that actually before, portrayed at this level. The story, taking the story and being the Jewish person trying to pass, setting up that inner conflict, that's a natural dramatic situation, I think. And then taking these people out into this field, this young girl and the boy, I was touched by the scene you just showed, which to me is, remove them from what else is going on in the world, and why shouldn't they have the pleasure of
You can't remove them from what else is going on in the world.
But that's, your heart goes out to a scene like that. And so I'm being constantly pulled. I think the movie is quite congruent all the way through. I'm pulled between things that seem natural, this young boy and his body and his desire to stay alive and this crushing force that will...
Well, I don't think it was
kill him.
such a lovely scene because, after all, she wants to get pregnant so she can be part of Hitler's desire that all the young women have little Nazis in a big hurry so that he can replenish his army. But even apart from that, Gene, I thought the acting by the lead actor in this film was particularly unconvincing. He seems to be kind of on tranquilizers the whole time. He doesn't really seem to feel anything. What he's trying to show inner anguish, I guess, but basically he just shows me a blank face a lot of the time.
I think the kid is, to say the least, traumatized, and if he is deadened at some level, that's because he truly is deadened, as anyone would be in that situation.
Coming up next, a special commentary on the career of Julia Roberts. How can we help the career of an actress who already is the top female box office star?
Well done! Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Are you a little confused when it comes to picking an olive oil? Maybe I can help with this. New Wesson Pure Olive Oil. It tastes so light, you can use it every day. And a low-fat, low-cholesterol diet that includes Wesson olive oil can actually help you reduce cholesterol for all your cooking, from sautéing to salads, for frying, and even baking. New Wesson olive oil. Wesson puts olive oil in a whole new light.
The #1 female box office star right now is Julia Roberts, whose new movie Dying Young opened last week to 2 thumbs down on this program anyway. One of the things that bothered me about the film was that once again it began with a rich man trying to buy the affections of Julia Roberts' character instead of winning her heart in a more romantic way. This is almost getting to be the Julia Roberts formula. Her first major movie was Mystic Pizza in 1988, where she played a poor girl from a working-class family who is the target of a rich upper-class snob.
Bring home your poor Portuguese girlfriend for dinner? Shake up the family a little bit?
That's not true.
I'm poor and I hate it. I admit it.
2 years later came her enormous box office hit Pretty Woman, where once again she was a poor girl, this time a prostitute who's picked up by a rich businessman.
6 nights at 300 is 1,800.
You want days too?
2,000.
3,000.
Done.
Holy...
Earlier this year came Sleeping with the Enemy, where her rich and powerful husband treats her like a possession he can insult, abuse, and patronize.
Everything in here as it should be?
I don't know why I forgot.
Well, we all forget things.
Now comes Dying Young, where once again she's a poor working-class girl who is hired by a rich snob, this time because he wants somebody pretty around while he goes through chemotherapy.
So why would you pick me?
Oh.
I got it. Had the shortest skirt, huh?
The Julia Roberts formula seems to include some basic elements. She is always working class and uneducated. The guy is always rich and wants to purchase her affections and pay for them, and then he wants to teach her the ways of the world. There are always these little scenes where she's kind of a student learning about investment banking or art history or something. What I want to know is, aren't there any screenplays being written these days where the people fall in love just because they like each other? How many times is Julia Roberts going to have to play that same scene where she tells the rich guy it's okay, he can relax now and stop writing out the checks because she likes him? I wonder if Hollywood is such a money and power-oriented town that old-fashioned love is no longer taken seriously, and the career brokers can only understand a relationship where the money comes first and then maybe the love comes along later.
Well, it's clear that you move out to California in the screenwriting profession because you're interested in love more than money more than love. So maybe you're into something psychologically true. I think also there's another thing going on. Because of the intense interest in this young woman who can light up the screen with her smile, she's making more movies than she thinks. This whole business with her off-screen life is a continuing movie, and her salary, and all this stuff. And so I think it is harder for us now to accept her doing the fairy tale. We believe she is now a woman of the world. I think the time is for her to recognize that, and for her to seize on a script where it talks about the pleasure and maybe the pain of being a stared-at object. Make something that's real in the world that could be, if it can be written, that is sharp and funny and about a successful character.
She has made a couple of movies that don't follow the formula, Flatliners and Steel Magnolias, and both of them she had a supporting role, although, of course, in Steel Magnolias, she was the person who died young. But in those films, she shows that she is a bona fide actress, in addition to being a wonderful presence on the screen, and I think it's time for them to retire this surefire formula where she's getting a check at the beginning of every picture. I don't think anybody should have to, I don't think she should have to settle for the kind of guys who feel that they don't deserve her.
And I'm sure the studio executives are saying, right, and, you know, we'll make the formula and cash the checks ourselves. Okay, coming up next, our video pick of the week, one of the lesser-known but very funny films from the Naked Gun comedy team. If you enjoy The Naked Gun 2.5, or even if you don't, you might want to check out the least commercially successful film from the Zucker and Abrahams creative team. It's on home video and it's called Top Secret, a send-up of the spy and Elvis genres, featuring Val Kilmer as a spy with a rock and roll repertoire. I thought this picture was just as funny as anything these guys have made, including Airplane, but for some reason it was overlooked, and maybe it's because the spy genre isn't that well known to today's young audience. Regardless, Top Secret is available on tape, and I do recommend you take a look at it. Now let's take another look at the movies we reviewed on this show. 2 thumbs up for Terminator 2, Judgment Day, the exciting sequel written and directed by James Cameron, supervising strong actors and dazzling special effects. A split vote on The Reflecting Skin. Roger really admired its portrait of childhood nightmares. I didn't care for the unrelenting downbeat tone. 2 thumbs up for The Naked Gun 2.5, the silly sequel packed with jokes that work. Another split vote on Europa Europa. Roger didn't see the larger significance of the story. I was touched by the tragedy amid the survival. So the picture we really like is Terminator 2, the best action picture since Die Hard 2.
It's a lot of fun. And you know, next week we're going to be back with a special program on the Terminator himself, Arnold Schwarzenegger, the secret of Arnold Schwarzenegger next week. And until then, the balcony is closed.
Enjoy the very best from Walt Disney Home Video with the swing and sing in Walt Disney classic, The Jungle Book. On sale now at your local video store.